If this case doesn't rise to the level where the public has the right to know, I'm just not sure what case would.
This is a non-party seeking access is highly relevant to the balancing act of that.
The child's interest is not in her privacy, but in making sure that this never happens again, what happened to her.
This is one of those extreme cases where maybe the veil of privacy should be pierced.
Justices for Harmony Montgomery, the highest court in Massachusetts, weighing whether to release recordings from a hearing that granted custody to Harmony's killer. The justices seeming to argue to prevent future victims like Harmony. And travel companions for Luigi Mangione now coming forward, revealing that he took some time on a vacation to get some time in on the firing range. You'll hear from his friends straight ahead. Also this hour, the woman who murdered singer Selena now looking for parole. But are the streets safe for a woman who already has a bounty on her head? Plus, we're counting down to a big day in court for accused hit-and-run girlfriend Karen Reed. Will the dog bite expert come into her trial? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? It is that time. Go ahead, grab that cup of coffee right now. Let's start things off with my opening statement. From Ivy League to lockup. How can someone so bright do something so foolish? What Luigi Mangione allegedly did was really stupid. There's a great chance he's going to be a jailbird for the rest of his life. Here's a question. What did the assassination of Brian Thompson solve? Nothing. Are your circumstances with your health insurance company any different since Brian Thompson was murdered? No, they're not. That murder wasn't a productive way to create change. It didn't help anybody. It only hurt people. It hurt the victim, and it hurt the family who survives him. There is nothing heroic about committing a murder. Nothing. It's despicable. What's ironic is that if Luigi Mangione had stayed the Ivy League course that he was on, he probably would have become a very respected leader someday. He could have become a federal lawmaker rather than a federal prisoner. And he could have created positive changes for his fellow Americans the right way, the lawful way. As Gandhi famously said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Each of us has that power to create a better world, but none of us has the right to take another man's life. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it right now. It's time for your daily docket. Defending Karen Reed back in court this morning for the continuation of the Daubert hearing on the dog bite expert that the defense wants to bring in and the Commonwealth says should stay out. We're going to go there live together once it gets underway. In New Jersey, we've got Sean Higgins with an arraignment hearing at 9 a.m. Eastern. This guy is accused of killing NHL star Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew Gaudreau by driving drunk and hitting them. That is the accusation. We're going to be following that one closely for you. And in Florida, we've got OnlyFans model Courtney Clenny. She's got a motions hearing this morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to keep an eye on that one as well. Now, let's go to our top story. We're learning more details about the United Healthcare CEO murder suspect, Luigi Mangione. Apparently, he took some time to go to the gun range while he was on vacation in Thailand months before the shooting. His travel friends from Germany sat down with TMZ's Harvey Levin for their documentary, Luigi Mangione, The Mind of a Killer.
Looking back, that now kind of makes the light bulb go off on what he is alleged to have done.
From what we can say, he went to a shooting range in Thailand. That's something we can tell. The day we went to the beach, he was at the shooting range before that.
Tell me what he said about it.
it was expensive.
Now, Mangione's travel companions also share that he was obsessed with a book from an Indian author and that he purchased 400 copies of that book and even flew to India to meet the author. The book called Hit Reverse, New Ideas from Old Books, may provide some clues as to why Mangione allegedly assassinated Brian Thompson. Now, Mangione is going to appear in federal court on January 18th and then in state court on February 21st. And of course, Court TV is going to be following those court appearances. And let's talk a little bit more about what was shared by these friends of Luigi Mangione's in the TMZ documentary that aired last night. I want to bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Bob Bianchi and private investigator, former NYPD officer and former Army intelligence officer Manuel Gomez. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Let's start with the information that the friends shared about him taking time out of vacationing to go to the firing range. Manuel Gomez, want to toss that question to you. What do you make of that, please?
Well, I mean, this is a great piece of evidence now for the prosecutor because it shows his methodical process that while he's on vacation, he's preparing for his mission to assassinate the CEO. And he's doing training. It was quite brilliant that he's doing shooting range shooting in Thailand, okay? And because it would not be detected. His only downfall was, you know, he shared the information and did it with these two guys, so it came out. But this is a piece of evidence that the prosecutor will be able to use. And I want to say, Julie, you're exactly right when you said that he didn't make a change in the system by killing the CEO. You're 100% correct. The only way you're going to make a change is demonstration through legislation, like Martin Luther King said.
Isn't that the truth? Manuel, thank you so much for that. Bob Bianchi, I want to ask you about the other piece of information that those friends shared in the TMZ doc about the books and this, what seems like kind of an obsession with that book and the author who wrote it, the 400 copies he bought of it, flying to India to meet the author. What do you think of the fact that he perhaps could have had a kind of an obsessive personality?
Julie, I'm a lawyer, not a psychologist, but I don't know what's in the book. I don't know what the book represented. I guess prosecutors would be, from a prosecutorial standpoint, trying to see if there was some sort of theme in that book that may give some explanation as to motive. But I really don't find this to be a huge piece of evidence. The motive is very clear here. It's written out by him specifically. We don't have to find it in a book or another piece of evidence. And what to me is more relevant is the gun range, because the gun range actually, if I may amplify the answer that was just given, goes strategically to the most important part of the prosecutor's case here, which is whether or not he is suffering from a mental disease or defect that prevents him from being able to know the difference between right or wrong. So every single thing a prosecutor can show, whether it's something in that book that they could try to divine, but you don't want to get too tricky in front of a jury and stretch out too much of something that you don't need to hear. But training at a gun range is something that they can say goes towards preparation, which specifically the forensic psychologist will say shows that there was an appreciation for knowing what he was doing over a significant period of time, which literally goes to attacking the most important defense that the defense can have here. That's what prosecutors are concentrating on right now. If they start getting into too much about his books and what he reads and what his thoughts are, they're going to throw themselves off track, in my opinion.
Gotcha, Bob. Thank you for that. I have another clip I want to play for you both from the TMZ documentary, and this is where Harvey Levin asks one of his friends as to whether Luigi Mangione is an arrogant guy. Take a listen to the answer.
Was Luigi an arrogant guy?
You might say so. So I don't know how to really feel about calling him arrogant. He was not arrogant with us, but I felt like he felt his way was the right way to do stuff.
When he had something, he had a very strong opinion about it, and I think he will let other people know.
Okay, Manuel Gomez, I'm going to go back to you here. When I heard that answer, what came to my mind was that perp walk that his attorney said really shouldn't have happened and been so grand. And I guess there were several. I should be specific. The one I was thinking about was when he's wearing that burgundy sweater, and he seemed so unbothered. He seemed like maybe he even enjoyed the attention. Who knows? Manuel, curious what you think, if you think this crime demonstrates arrogance.
His demeanor, as you said, you nailed it right on the head. He's so confident as he's walking down. There's no humility. There's no remorse. He's walking as though he's walking down the street to get a cup of coffee, even though he's surrounded and handcuffed. And, you know, not only do I believe he's arrogant, but I believe when you look at the notes and the information in his book, he's a bit of a narcissist. And these killers tend to be that way, tend to be arrogant and a narcissist. So he fits right in line with that, you know. And granted, Julie, you're right. This is a nightmare for the defense team, because the bottom line is, how is he going to get a proper trial when he's out there on every channel, on every radio station? So, but at the end of the day, like my colleague said, the notes he has are damning, and this TMZ documentary proves unequivocally his motive. They gave the prosecution a smoking gun.
Great points, Manuel. Thank you for that. Bob, I want to go back to something you mentioned. You touched on the possible defense of not guilty by reason of insanity. So do me a favor and look at this from the defense perspective. What might they be doing at this point in time if they want to present such a defense for Luigi Mangione?
You know, first of all, let me just say that perp walk as a former prosecutor who ran an agency was disgraceful and should not have been done. Is going to be the possible undoing of prosecutors. Maybe we could talk about that later in terms of the fact that when they start jumping into the area of the public arena and they're doing things like perp walks and whatever, it's not about the case anymore. It's about egos. And I've seen that literally unravel prosecutions. Also, let's watch out for two jurisdictions that are prosecuting the same individual and whether they're playing well in the sandbox, because when they don't, I've seen that scuttle prosecutions as well. Now, to the exact question that you're asking, the more that they're perp walking him, the more that they're putting him out there bigger, making him bigger, giving him more attention, surrounding him with automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons and 200 guards and police officers and federal officers, the more they're increasing a likelihood that there could be one juror. This is what gets me nervous as a former homicide prosecutor. Will there be one juror where it doesn't rise to the level of a mental defense, which is very, very difficult for defense to overcome here? In my opinion, they will not overcome it. But will they elate this guy, rise this guy to a level where there's one juror that says, you know what, he is a hero. You know what, he was doing the right thing, and I am not going to convict him. It's called jury nullification, Julie. And if I were the defense lawyer, I would be working on that jury nullification piece because the evidence is strong. Last point I think is huge. No one's talking about this. How did they get into that knapsack? How did they get that gun? How did they get that notebook? I hope that we don't find out that they should have secured a warrant and they didn't, and they went in there, and down the road, the defense is likely to say his Fourth Amendment rights were violated. I've seen this happen over and over again. No one's talking about it, Julie. We are here right now on Court TV because if his rights were violated, that evidence may be thrown out.
All right, so we have to leave it there for time's sake. Bob Bianchi, got to say goodbye to you. Manuel Gomez, you're coming along with us. We thank you for that. Still ahead here on Opening Statements. Here's what's coming up.
The obvious interest is protecting, making sure this child hasn't died in vain, that we're not going to do this again, ever. We're going to do everything humanly possible to not make the same mistakes again, right? Isn't that the legitimate interest?
The justices from the highest court hear arguments over Harmony Montgomery's case records. You're going to hear some very passionate pleas from the justices. That's coming up later in the show. But first, here's what's trending in true crime. Selena's killer is up for parole for the first time in 30 years. We'll be right back.
Tonight, tonight on Court TV.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments. We have a big hour ahead here.
Your deplorable actions are unforgivable.
The community still doesn't know how this Boston police officer died.
He can't prove one element of his case. It was a dramatic day, a dramatic moment inside the courtroom.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan. Tonight at 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
The vocal prowess of Latin music icon Selena still holds a special place in the hearts of her fans and music lovers alike. Nearly 3 decades after her death, what's trending in true crime is the woman convicted of killing the beautiful 23-year-old superstar is now requesting parole. Defendant Yolanda Saldívar, seen here with Selena back in 1994, was convicted of first-degree murder for fatally shooting Selena. She was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. And this recent filing is her first chance at parole. It can come after serving 30 years in Texas. Now, this review hearing for Saldívar is set for March 30th, but she's already in the process, so to speak, of what's ahead. So we're asking this morning, is it likely she's going to be released on parole? She was the president of Selena's fan club at one point, and Selena was set to fire her because of her embezzling money from the fan club. And it was at that time when she was confronted that she murdered Selena. Of course, she has always spoken out saying it's accidental, all of that. Yeah, well, the jury didn't buy it. Neither did the court. Let's talk about this. What's the parole board going to say about this woman? Let me bring in our power panel now. Still with me, private investigator Manuel Gomez. Want to welcome in the director of prosecution projects at Florida International University, former homicide prosecutor Melba Pearson, and family relationship expert, author, psychologist, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Good morning to you all. Ooh, what's the likelihood this lady is getting out? Melba Pearson, let's start with you, please. Your thoughts.
Thank you so much, and good morning, Julie, and to my fellow panelists. I don't think she's going to get out, because some of the things that the parole board looks at is, number one, what have you done during your time in incarceration? Did you take classes? Did you assist other incarcerated persons by advising them, whatever the case may be, forming support groups? So the parole board was to see that you've made good use out of your time in custody. And secondly, and most importantly for this, they want to see some sort of remorse. They want to see you take responsibility for your actions, apologize for the harm you've caused, and set forth a plan of how you're going to live a law-abiding life once you're released. The defendant here has not, or the convicted person here has not done any of those things. She's still sticking by the whole it was an accident. How do you accidentally kill somebody who is about to turn you in for embezzling money? That just doesn't fly. Mm-hmm. So if she keeps saying that kind of foolishness to the parole board, she will be sitting in custody for another 30 years or until she gets carried out in a pine box.
Great points, Melba. We have a clip in that Oxygen documentary, where she's talking about the moments leading up to the shooting. Let's talk about how believable this story is. Let's roll the clip.
I felt like, how dare you accuse me when I've kept all your secrets? What do you want me to do? And all I could think is to show her my loyalty to her is to blow my brains out. I said, what do you want me to do? What is the last thing y'all want me to do? What is the last thing your family wants me to do? You want me to kill myself? Because I'll just do it. And I got the gun and she said, no, Yolanda. And she went to the door. And when she went to the door, I said, don't close the door, and pow, it went.
Is this story believable? Dr. Sue Kornbluth, what are you thinking as you're watching this lady?
I'm thinking this is not believable, Julie. There's too much going on here. Even in her presentation, it's very dramatic in terms of what she's saying. And, you know, I agree with Melba. There's no remorse here in terms of what she's done. Let's remember, she purchased that gun prior to the shooting that took place. Also, I believe that Selena was shot in the back. So I don't know how that could be an accident. Here's the thing. If you're not showing any remorse after 30 years of something like this happening, then it's very doubtful that the panel is going to give you parole. And by the way, this doesn't bring back Selena, that beautiful 24-year-old who was going to have a career of a lifetime back. And so the family of Selena, where is their justice in all of this if she does get parole? For me, there isn't. She needs to show some kind of remorse and get more help in prison to recognize what has been done here and what she did.
A great analysis. Dr. Sue, might I just say our control room is loving how you were fact-checking this criminal here on everything she's saying, the smoke and mirrors she seems to be trying to put up. I don't know who's listening. Manuel Gomez, last but not least, we certainly want your take on this lady and whether you think she's going to be released.
Colleagues have said, you know, I don't believe she will be released. And one of the major factors is, like Julie said in the beginning, you know, the jury didn't believe her. One of the reasons why they didn't believe Ms. Salvador is because, one, before she shot Selena, she went out and applied for a license. She received gun training. She got that gun. She knew methodically what she was going to do. Second, like my colleague just said, Selena was shot in the back, okay? She was going to blow her brains out. She wouldn't have pointed the gun at Selena and then fired it. And third, like my colleague said as well, he has not done one program, and let me point that out, not one program in 30 years to show that she's becoming rehabilitated and to become an asset to society. This person, even though she's now about 55, almost 60 years old, she's still a threat to society and belongs to be incarcerated and stay there for the rest of her days.
Excellent points. I couldn't agree with you more. I think she is a danger to society. And let's play a clip from the Oxygen documentary, another one where she's describing her decision to pull the trigger that day. Let's take a look.
My decisions were my decisions, but the consequences are also mine. And I'm regretful for all of that. If I could turn time, if I could turn the clock, I think that a lot of things would not be as they were.
Okay, and so another question we have here has to do with how we know Selena was so beloved, still is so beloved, and apparently this woman's had a bounty on her head, even in lockup. People are angry with her, and so now we're wondering, you know, I couldn't agree with Manuel more, and I'm sure his fellow panelists, you know, Melba and Dr. Sue agree that this lady is dangerous if she gets out, but, you know, is she in danger? Let's talk about that. You know, is she, you know, going to be comfy walking the streets of Texas if, let's say, the parole board were to let her out? How about that question? Melba Pearson, let me go back to you on that. Your thoughts, please.
Listen, Selena was somebody who was beloved. And the amount of people that turned out to her funeral, that turned out to the trial, that would kill Yolanda on sight, Yolanda being the defendant, the person convicted for Selena's homicide, she is not safe in Texas. She's not safe in California. I don't know if there's anywhere in these United States that she can go that she would be safe. She's actually safer locked up. And I doubt highly that there's a bounty on her head in the prison, because if somebody wanted to get to her, they would have done it 25 years ago. So I think that now if she is released, that the people who still harbor that love for Selena and that anger towards her for ripping Selena away from our world, you know, taking her talent away from her, I think they will have something very fatal to say about that.
Professor Melba Pearson taking us to school. I love it. That point you made about if there really was a bounty on her, it would have been done. I love it. Let's take it a step further. further. Manuel Gomez, what do you think about that? If prisoners want to kill another prisoner, they sure can do it, can't they?
Well, she's exactly correct. This would have happened 30 years ago. And like you said, Selena is so beloved. There is nowhere in America that she will go that there won't be some fanatic fan that will take this lady out. There is no doubt in my mind. It's unequivocal, okay? She distinguished one of the most beautiful lights in the music history we've ever had, which was Selena. And, you know, Selena was groundbreaking, you know, transferring Spanish music to English music, doing clotheslines. Most of the stuff she's done, Beyonce, J-Lo, Rihanna, all of them have copied what Selena was doing. So, you know, due to the fact of Selena's popularity and what an amazing light she was to the world, she won't last, I'd say, 5 minutes outside in the public. There's no doubt in my mind.
Thank you for that insight. This is really helpful. And Dr. Sue, I want to get some psychology insight from you, if you don't mind, please. We were just talking about this lady, you know, in our meeting when we were planning the show. And, you know, it seems that she was really obsessed. Would you speak to that? Like, what do you see going on here that might have driven her to kill the woman that she was so obsessed with for so many years?
I think she was obsessed and probably jealous, and so jealousy often leads people to take drastic measures such as murder. And so I believe that is what has happened here. Selena was just so beloved, and I think this woman felt she was on the back burner. She helped her create her career, and she wasn't going to put up with it anymore. And in terms of a bounty on her, please, come on. I believe that's a delusional belief that she's trying to use to get off on parole.
Yeah, oh, that's good. That's good, Dr. Sue. Yep, maybe some manipulation. We'll see where that rumor is originating. Is it originating with her? We have so much more to discuss on this show, but we'll leave this here for now. Of course, we'll be revisiting this case when it comes up. I need to say goodbye to Manuel Gomez. Big thank you for all of your insight and expertise, Manuel. Always a pleasure. Melba and Dr. Sue are coming along. Want you to do the same at home, please. When we come back, we're turning to our spotlight and we're shining it on the executive, the Microsoft executive, Jared Bridegan, who was killed in what prosecutors say was a murder for hire plot they allege was done by his ex-wife and her new husband. We'll talk about where the case stands. And in about 30 minutes from now, we're going to court for a big hearing that could break one of the defense's theories. They have a theory about a dog bite with Officer John O'Keefe. And the Commonwealth is saying the expert they called in the last trial was never qualified to give an opinion.
With regard to wounds, do you have any experience with dog-inflicted wounds on humans?
Much experience.
This was a planned and targeted ambush and murder. The ruthless homicide has pained our community.
This morning, we're spotlighting the killing of Microsoft executive Jared Bridegan. We've got some brand new court dates for the upcoming hearings and the eventual trial for the two accused of murdering him. His estranged wife, Shanna Gardner Fernandez, and her husband, Mario Fernandez Saldana. They are accused in the 2022 murder for hire plot that prosecutors say they put into effect to take out Jared Bridegan. Now, they both were set to be in court on Monday for a hearing, but so we found out they waived their appearances. Both of them indicted on first-degree murder charges, and prosecutors are seeking the death penalty for both of them. Bridegan was 33 years old. He's a father of four, gunned down outside of his SUV back in 2022 after he stopped to move a tire out of the road. But police said it was all a setup to get him to stop the car where he would be shot and killed by a hired hitman. Our Matt Johnson went to the crime scene.
Jared was not a victim of any robbery gone wrong or carjacking. Police say he was the victim of a targeted attack on a one-way road he traveled often. Jared came across a tire police say was intentionally placed right here in the middle of the road in the sanctuary neighborhood of Jacksonville Beach, Florida. That's when someone came out of these woods and ambushed the father of 4, killing him on the spot.
Oh my gosh, it's so terrible. So this is the man who killed Jared Bridegan. He's admitted to it. His name is Henry Tenen. He pleaded guilty to the crime of second-degree murder, and as part of his plea agreement, he agreed to testify against Shanna and Mario. Apparently, he knew Mario, and he intends to give testimony against them. He's going to be in court on January 13th. There's going to be a check on his case, a status check, to make sure everything is still good to go with him as the main witness. And then the 2 other defendants are going to be in court on February 3rd, and their trial date has been picked for October 25th. They are joined. Again, it's a capital case. That is when those 2 are going to be tried. So are we going to see a trial here? And what about the kids? Jared Bridegan had children with his first wife and then children with his second wife, and now they're left without a dad. This is so horrible. Let's bring in our guest analyst, now our legal analyst, Melba Pearson, and our psychology analyst, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. So starting with the law, Melba Pearson, what do you expect to happen? Do you think we're going to see this trial with these co-defendants actually go in October?
Well, I don't think that the trial will necessarily go in October because of the fact that in Florida, where I'm licensed to practice, we have a process called discovery, and we have depositions where, basically the defense counsel can sit down, but talk to the state's witnesses to understand how the case will be presented, and they can make their decisions accordingly as to how they're going to present their defense case. So very rarely does the date that's set actually result in the day that it goes to trial. I could see this being a year from now in all likelihood as being the time that it goes to trial. And also there's an interesting wrinkle here. So Florida has changed its death penalty law where before you had to have a unanimous jury, and now we're at the point where if you have an 8-4, or basically a simple majority, that is enough for the death penalty. So the defense is arguing very strenuously that these defendants should be tried under the former law, the previous law, which required a unanimous jury because of the fact that this crime occurred before the law changed. So those machinations and those arguments are also going to prolong the amount of time it will take to bring this case to trial.
Oh, Professor, thank you for that reminder. And it was after the Nicholas Cruz case, right, that your state lawmakers in Florida made that change. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so that's something big to watch. Dr. Sue, I want to ask you about these kids and what these kids are likely going through right now after this horrific tragedy.
Well, let's remember that he was shot in front of his children. We cannot forget that. So we have that major trauma from the get-go here. Look, I mean, this all surrounds abandonment and fear and safety for these children. Now they are left without a father and also without a mother. And I believe they are living with her parents now, if I am correct on that. And that's confusing to them as well. Any child that goes through any kind of trauma is going to have difficulty later on in life. And we hope that they get the help that they need and they won't be led down a road to, such things as drug or alcohol, but probably will have a lot of issues around abandonment, trust, commitment, and safety.
Thank you so much for all of that. Dr. Sue Kornbluth, attorney Melba Pearson. We have to leave this one here for now for time's sake, but thank you both so much for your expertise and insight. Still to come here on Opening Statements.
This is a non-party seeking access is highly relevant to the balancing act of that.
The child's interest is not in her privacy, but in making sure that this never happens again, what happened to her.
Harmony Montgomery's case still in the headlines as the justices in Massachusetts are hearing arguments as to whether to release some child custody records. And we're counting down to defendant Karen Reed's hearing today over whether her defense team's dog bite expert is qualified to give an opinion. The hearing's set to begin at 9. We're going to go there together live.
Coming soon to Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering. He is the boogeyman. Lori Daybell.
She said, I will have you destroyed.
She's got another murder trial coming up.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
We will not stop fighting. We have no quit.
Sean Diddy Combs arrested on a federal indictment.
The high-stakes trials you don't want to miss. Coming soon. Only on Court TV. Call now.
Welcome back. And now for what's tipping the scales, the Harmony Montgomery case still back in the headlines and in the court system as a filmmaker is trying to find out how Adam Montgomery got custody of his daughter despite his violent past. Harmony's father, Adam Montgomery, is serving 56 years to life in prison after being convicted of her murder. The 5-year-old's body still hasn't been found. And on Monday, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court listened to arguments about whether records from a 2019 child custody hearing for Harmony should be made public.
Nobody knows, not the legislature, not anybody outside of the parties themselves and the OCA knows what exactly happened during that hearing that resulted in the court granting custody.
The filmmaker wants access to the records for a film that he's producing on the Massachusetts child protection and juvenile court systems. And we have a very special guest we want to welcome in now. She is one of Harmony's biggest advocates. You know her and love her for being one of our analysts on the show. Retired juvenile court judge Carol Erskine. She's also a constitutional law professor. She handled the adoption of Harmony's brother Jameson, and she authored a book called A Cruel Injustice: How Massachusetts put 4-year-old Harmony in the hands of a monster. Do yourself a favor, pick up a copy of that book, and you're going to be doing something great as well, because all the proceeds go to the Dave Thomas Foundation for adoption as well. Judge Carol, good morning. Your opinion on the possible release of this information?
Well, thanks for having me on, Julie. This is definitely something I would love to have some say in. Because what is very clear is that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has worked very hard to keep the secrets of Harmony's case just that way secret. And so I think Attorney Lamanna, who represented the media outlet, did an excellent job in going through the criteria, basically saying regarding the issue of good cause, that the media company has good cause to release this, even though they're a non-party in the case. And that was based on, of course, the nature of the case. And then, of course, the court looks at the privacy rights of those involved in determining whether it should be released, as well as community interest, constitutional issues, and the reason that the non-party is requesting the release. So that's the criteria. And as you can see, the DCF attorney in the Department of Children and Families is very much against it, basically saying, well, even though Harmony is deceased, she still has privacy rights. As you can see, Justice Kafka kind of took exception to that. I mean, I've spent 2 years living with this case and revealing as much as I could in the book about what Massachusetts is hiding, and I released a lot of those details. But I've also said in the book that Massachusetts has worked hard, and in particular the trial court and the legal system has worked hard to keep these secrets. So, yeah, I think I support the limited release. No one supports releasing, case information in general about abused and neglected kids. That just doesn't work. But that's not what they're asking for here. They're simply asking for the reporting of the trial to determine what happened in such a way that, as I put in the book, that set Harmony on a lethal trajectory that ended up in a brutal murder.
You're so right, Judge. You're so right. And great points. What are they hiding? Why not make this public now? Well, what is DCF afraid of? We have a clip here where the DCF attorney is kind of going back and forth with one of the justices. Let's take a listen together now.
You're referring to the privacy interest of the child who's been killed. Isn't the child's interest to the extent we can discern the child's interest, it's not in her privacy, but in making sure that this never happens again, what happened to her. Isn't that her interest? I don't understand what her privacy interest is.
Well, there's not been any case law or statute that has extinguished privacy interest at death.
Oh my. Okay, and so another thing important to understand, Judge, you know this, that Crystal Sorey, Harmony's biological mother, and Adam Montgomery, her biological father, are not blocking this release. It's not them. It's DCF here, you know, which I think perhaps raises some red flags. What do you say, Judge?
Yeah, I mean, DCF, I think, is very clear that they don't want this to come out because it was clear in the OCA report that they did a very poor job in representing the position that Harmony should not go with Adam Montgomery. That was their position, but they didn't defend it well. And the reason they didn't defend it well is because they didn't do their job when Harmony was in foster care. They didn't provide her with any services. They didn't evaluate Adam Montgomery. They didn't drug test Kayla Montgomery. They did nothing with Kayla Montgomery, so of course they're against it. Well, Crystal did take the position that she is opposing it in the sense that she has privacy rights and she doesn't feel that the information should be released. However, I think the court was rather dismissive of that, saying, well, you know, the position was that the child was going to go with the father. Unfortunately, they got that wrong. Crystal herself had filed a petition with the court and was seeking custody, and was essentially prevented from that with her lawyer saying she's in another court and she's okay to go ahead with Adam getting custody. That just wasn't true. I think, you know, the bottom line is the media company is only asking for release of what happened during that trial. They're not asking for documentation. I don't think they're asking for documentary evidence. They were clear what they're asking for is very limited. And I think under the good cause analysis, they probably met that burden, although the bottom line is, and Justice George has made that very clear, they have to find that the judge who denied the media outlet access to what happened in that court abused her discretion. And short of her abusing her discretion, they can't go further with the good cause analysis.
Oh boy, this is really helpful, Judge. All of the insight, the clarifications there, everything you're providing, the standards. Thank you. I think we have time for one more clip here. One of the justices pointing out that the purpose in all of this is to prevent this from happening again. Let's take a listen.
Obviously, the most important consideration is trying to figure out what went terribly wrong here. Is there anything that shouldn't be turned over? I mean, are there any residual privacy interests that we have to take into account here, given that? I mean, I'm trying to understand, is there anything that should be impounded in your view?
Okay, and Judge Carroll, we're almost out of time, but quickly, did you get a sense of which way these justices may be leaning?
Well, it's difficult to say. I think Justice Kafka is pretty clear where he's leaning. But, you know, there are other privacy interests here that were mentioned, including siblings who have been adopted. And so I did have a chance to speak to Blair and Jonathan last night about their position. You know, they have run into doors slamming in their face about whether anybody even raised the issue of sibling visitation in that hearing. So they support at least opening it up to get enough transparency to see why people are shutting them out, why people are shutting Jameson out, and just what happened there.
Right. And perhaps we can continue the conversation another day with Blair and Jonathan Miller. And you helped facilitate that adoption for them of Jameson, Harmony's brother. And we know they would have taken Harmony too if they could have. Wonderful people like you. Judge Carol Erskine, thank you kindly for everything this morning. We'll talk again soon. That is all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. When we come back, Court TV Live begins. We're going to Massachusetts for the continuation of the Daubert hearing in the case over the murder of Officer John O'Keefe.